So, all right, everybody, how you doing? I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World and the Black Business School, and I have the esteemed honor of bringing in an extraordinary guest, Dr. Asha Tarry, Tarry, not Terry, Tarry, and she's out of New York City, and she's a licensed therapist and a whole bunch of other amazing things, and she also happened to be one of the extraordinary stars of our film Resurrecting Black Wall Street. So I want to ask Dr. Terry, how you doing today?
I'm doing great, and I have to make one correction.
Please.
I am not a doctor. People oftentimes assume I am, but I'm a
I've always called you Dr. Terry.
Psychotherapist. That's okay. A lot of people do that, so maybe that's my calling.
Yeah, absolutely. I had no idea, but thank you for correcting me. It's so funny. I've been thinking that in my head. I've been calling you Dr. Terry in my mind for a long time, but
Okay.
I'm glad you corrected me on that. Thank you. And and I give you credit for that, because you got a whole lot of Negroes out here with honorary doctorates and part-time online doctorates that are calling themselves doctor. and I went through a tough program. I was in school till I was 31 years old. Because I went through programs that were really difficult. So it's always really funny when somebody tells you they got their doctorate like over the weekend or whatever. I gave $10,000 to some random school and they gave me an honorary doctorate. Good for you. I'm happy to hear about your bullshit. But so anyway, so Asha, I want to ask you, you made a post on Facebook that, and I wish I could screenshot it so people can see it. I can't even find it, but it's okay. We can recite what was said, and you can clarify it. And you actually went into the what some people consider to be sacred territory. You actually kind of challenged this perception of Iyanla Vanzant as a therapist. A lot of people believe she's a therapist, and they think that she does the same thing people like you do. And you just kind of just said, no, she's not a therapist. And then it was a very short statement you made on Facebook, but you got a lot of backlash from that. Can you tell me, first and foremost, I want to ask you, when you challenged Iyanla, and you did it in a very polite way, how do people respond to your comment?
Well, I've been challenging that myth of her being a therapist for quite some time. It was part of an ongoing dialogue I have with my online community regarding psychotherapy and therapists and mental health treatment. The reason it got so much hype that particular night is her commercials for the new season of Iyanla Fix My Life was being sliced in between Greenleaf. And I was watching Greenleaf and doing an online chat around the Black church and mental health and mental illness. When I posted at the end of the night, Iyanla is not a therapist, good night, a lot of people started to respond and like and post and share and comment. And one person I remember in particular was seemingly offended that I said she's not a therapist, and she went on to list Iyanla's credentials. My point was never to disrespect or discredit Ms. Vanzant. It was to inform and to continue to inform people about the mislabeling of people who are doing healing work and being coined therapists, because there's different ways to do healing and be considered a practitioner. But when we start coining people as psychotherapists, we get into this other gray area where my work is important to educate people on the difference. So I'm very familiar with her work. I've been following Ms. Vanzant for over 2 decades. I'm a fan of her work, especially more of her work in the past, her books and her affirmation books. Her television show initially I was a fan of. Over time, I've taken issue with it. And I wasn't taking issue with what was to come, because I can't foresee what the show was going to be. But I was taking issue with the fact that a lot of people reach out to me and talk with me about their hopes of getting into treatment, but I actually get calls from people specifying if my treatment looks like hers. And my point is, what she does is a form of coaching, and we know from watching her show, and if we go online and we look at her institute in Maryland, we know that she is a certified coach. However, what she's doing now on TV is reality TV. And we need to be clear on educating the public between the difference in online reality TV watching and what goes on in a practitioner's office. And so the difference between coaching and psychotherapy is what I was trying to make clear. So it definitely raised some red flags for people to jump on the bandwagon and say, you're absolutely right, she's not a therapist. And then, it kind of went on from there. But it wasn't out of spite. It wasn't out of disrespect. It was out of an ongoing dialogue that I've been having with the community that I work with to say, this is not therapy. Don't get it confused. Don't coin her a therapist. She's never coined herself a therapist. Let's be clear about that. So I was trying to make a point, and I'm glad that it ruffled some feathers. If it doesn't ruffle people's feathers, then we can't have conversation around why we're so particularly touched about how we covet these reality TV stars, and we want to give a lot of faith to the work that they do. But then when we actually get into our own reality, we want to avoid a lot of issues in our personal, professional lives. So that was really how that started. And it went on for several days. People were commenting on it, sharing the post, coming back to me, sending me messages. But that's really where it started.
Well, it's and I want to make sure people know a couple things. Number one, in case you just tuned in, I'm talking to Dr. Keep calling you doctor. See, here we are talking about Iyanla's thing, and I'm up here giving you credentials you don't have. But it actually speaks to my point. Asha Terry, who's a licensed therapist, is explaining the post she made in which she was alerting the public, that Iyanla Vanzant is not a licensed therapist. Now, the point that you're making, and the reason I connected to the mistake I just made, is that you're not attacking Iyanla. You're not trying to say, oh, well, she ain't nothing and she ain't no good. You're not doing that. Because Iyanla, as you mentioned, has never called herself a therapist. She lets people know she's a coach. She's a motivational speaker. She's an inspirational leader, but she never calls herself a therapist, because you can't do that. But and so I think that it's interesting that you were actually not so much challenging Iyanla and saying, oh, she's a liar. You were saying to the public, look, don't make her something that she's not, because you're going to get it confused, which to some extent, and you can help me on this, but it almost seems to me that there are individuals in your profession who might feel a little bit slighted by the fact that there are people who are not licensed, who might never actually say, look, I'm a therapist, but who act just like therapists, walk like the duck, talk like the duck, and they end up taking the duck's opportunities, even though the duck was the one who actually worked hard to be a real duck. Kind of like a Rachel Dolezal, a professional version of a Rachel Dolezal kind of thing. How does that feel, for people that are in your profession who kind of see, someone like Iyanla being seen as a therapist, getting all the, the attention and support for the work she does, when really great therapists like yourself and others that I know kind of don't really get all the respect that they deserve? I mean, is there kind of a sentiment that people have with that?
Yeah, I'm going to tie in 3 quick points that addresses you calling me Dr. Terry, this issue of people coining her as a therapist, and this idea of folks that are not on television not getting the admiration and respect that they are qualified to receive and deserve. So it's very important to me that I walk in a path of being ethical. So that's why I corrected you off the bat regarding calling me Dr. Terry, because part of the work that I do is founded in our own code of ethics. You can't practice under something that you're not licensed to do, but you can practice under something that you are credentialed in other ways to do. So let me be clear about that. If I go to school and get a master's degree in social work, which is what I did, and I decide to call myself a counselor and provide counseling, I can do that. What I can't do is go out here and promote myself as a licensed social worker or a licensed counselor if I am not that. It's not in our ethical vein to do so. And so oftentimes when people start giving people credentials that they don't have, we fall into line with our own conflicts about who we seek out and what we think what we're seeking is appropriate for our health and our treatment. So when I said to people, she's never given herself that title, don't give that title to her, it's also saying, let's get clear on what a psychotherapist is, what he or she does, and how you get to that endeavor. Okay. So when I went to school, I had to go through 4 years of undergraduate training. I then went through 3 years of graduate training. Then I had to sit for a board exam and pass my licensure. And then I went back to school and got what's called a postgraduate psychoanalytic certificate. So now also I'm certified to do a psychoanalysis. That's not what everybody has to do in order to become a therapist. But in order to be a counselor at the basic primary level, you have to be someone who's credentialed with a degree. So what we're trying to do in terms of practitioners is continue to educate the public, in particular people of color, about what the difference is in the work that all of us are out here doing. Now, what she's doing on television, has its own lane to it, and people honor and respect it and enjoy it. But I also see it as a form of entertainment. And that is not what I want people to think therapy is. You're going to come in and there are going to be lights and cameras and makeup artists sitting in the room, and we're going to slice your life up into a 30-minute segment, and it's going to be fantastic. We're going to wrap your problems up in a half hour. That's not what this is. When you commit to doing this type of work, this is an engagement between a professional and an individual. We're getting into a space that's really uncomfortable, and we're doing that from week to week, month to month, sometimes year to year, uncovering all the conscious layers of trauma. That doesn't happen sometimes, in the open eye in the public. What we're doing is deep level work for people who have been victimized over time. And when I look at people who are in my work, doing psychotherapy, doing counseling, doing coaching even, all the work is really valuable, and it's not for everybody. One of the quotes that someone posted on that comment that I made was that particular work that she does may work for some people. I don't disagree with that. I wasn't here challenging that. What I was here challenging is the fact is that she's not in the same lane that I'm in. I'm not in her lane as well, and I'm not trying to be, okay? We don't go to school so that we can end up on television. That's not what I'm here to do. At the same time, what I was saying to the person who commented about this may work for some people is, it wasn't the episode that was coming. It was an episode I saw where she actually was invoking this person to break down and cry and crumble. And the person was Debbie Thomas. If you remember Olympic figure skater Debbie Thomas, she sort of fell from grace. And this show that I saw a couple of years ago about her life on Fix My Life really just highlighted all the negative aspects of what we didn't know about her life. And it was sliced apart and put into a 1-hour TV show for our entertainment. But the way that Debbie came across wasn't healed and repaired. She looked as though her life had fallen apart, and it was for our viewing audience to see and in some ways exploit. Under my ethical guidelines, I'm not here to exploit people. I'm not here to make your life look like entertainment for me and everyone else out here to see. And so what may seem to work for television is not the same as what works for people in real treatment. And I'm both a licensed coach and a psychotherapist, and I still know the difference. People who come in for coaching, they come in for a very clear reason. They're stuck in a particular area of their life: career, love, relationships, lifestyle, health, fitness, financial, okay? We get very clear up front what the goals are. We have a timeline for it. There's no BSing about what we're here to do. When you come in for therapy, it's not that same fast-paced track work. It's a slowed down process. It's uncovering the unconscious. It's looking at the things that are not being spoken. It's evaluating, diagnosing, and treating without medication, in my instance, I'm not an MD, and being able to work through that day to day, month to month, year to year. It's a different process, a different timeline, and I'm doing different types of work here. I'm not out here trying to put people on blast that as an accountability coach, I have to hold you and your goals up to the light to say, if you don't get this done in 6 months, you're probably not going to be a coachable client.
So do you
see
feel
a little
that,
bit of the difference?
Well, let me ask you this. Do you feel that what happened with Debbie Thomas was, if you, let's say you had done that, let's say it was, the Asha Tari show, and you went in there and you got crunk with Debbie and had her break down on TV. What would your colleagues say to you? Would they come to you and kind of have a chat? Would they challenge you on your behavior on television?
I think people would challenge me on television and off television, and it's their right to do. It's their obligation. It's their duty. Colleague to colleague, we have the right to challenge each other on the type of work and the way in which we're working. Even if we're not qualified to do the work that we're doing, we have every obligation, not to each other alone, but to each other and our client, to do that. And that's the message that I've been pushing forward here, is that what folks misinterpret about therapy is that there are different styles of therapy, and that sometimes the most aggressive confrontational therapy or approach is the best approach. And what I was telling this particular person on Facebook is that her approach may work for television ratings. It may work for people who are entertained, but it does not work for someone who's been traumatized, i.e. the way in which Debbie Thomas had obviously been traumatized and possibly was re-traumatized by the way in which Iyanla was invoking a response from her for the pleasure and purposes of us, doing this, being voyeurs. And
Yeah,
so,
it is interesting. It does seem like it's really tough to do the real work because number one, your time is so short when you're on a show, and then two, you've got these producers behind you that are thinking about ratings and profitability, and they're like, okay, push them, get them, make them cry, and so it almost seems like some of these shows, these Fix My Life kinds of shows are a little bit almost like an extension of what you saw with Jerry Springer and whatever. Just create the drama, take the family's issue or the individual's issue, put it out on Front Street, have them confront the issue and create an emotional reaction so that we can be entertained by watching people's lives sort of crumble right in front of us. And I'm curious. So, what would you say if you were? Do you think that shows like this should be on the air at all, or do you think that there's a space for this sort of, animated life coaching thing? Because we know that the desire for ratings isn't going to go away. VH1 and wherever these networks are, they're all still going to be money hungry. Is there any space at all for this kind of work to be done on TV?
yeah, absolutely. As soon as you and I sign our contract, we're going to be on having the show right now. But I think there's a lane for a lot of things. And there are shows out there I have watched, including Iyanla's, that I do respect and I think have been great. I remember before there was an Iyanla Fix My Life, Dr. Drew had his show, Celebrity Rehab. He had another version of Rehab before that. There's another clinician, I can't remember her name, Caucasian female with blonde hair. She does couples therapy and she has celebrities on there too. I think there's different ways of people being informed about treatment. And there are qualified professionals that are there doing it, including Iyanla Vanzant. But at the same time, what our responsibility to the general public is as practitioners is to say, whether it's in a disclaimer format or it's just through the work that we're doing, this is not therapy, or this is coaching, or this is therapy, or this is drug treatment. Let's be really upfront about the language and the appropriate language to use so that people are well aware of what it is that they're watching and or seeking or in need of seeking, so that we can do this work. And of course, yeah, you're taking probably a couple of hours of recordings and you're timing it out to something that we're watching in a half hour through, commercials and all of that stuff too. So I think there is a space for it. I think there's ways for people to receive the services and the help that they deserve and they need appropriately. But like Iyanla says, let's call a thing a thing. And if a thing is not what we think it is, then let's correct it. And let's be better aware and better informed of it, and let's give the language to it. So something that you mentioned a few minutes ago that goes back to what I was saying regarding ethics is people come to us because they need help. Our responsibility to them is to not use an opportunity to exploit the help that we can give. If we do that, we not only fail them, we fail the profession, if that makes sense. And as all of us know who do this work, we put lots of money into getting trained to do the work that we do. And sometimes it's not even commensurate of the work that we have to do in terms of the recuperation financially for it. So I just want to be clear that folks trust us. Okay, they trust that we know what we're doing. They trust that we know we have their best interests at heart. And if we're going to do this work and do it correctly and do it with honor and respect that it deserves, then we have to question, what are we doing it for and how are we doing it? Are we doing it in the best interest of this client? Or are we doing it in our best interest? And if the answer is the latter, then I don't want to be a part of that. I'm not here to sell my soul for ratings. I'm here to help people understand the difference between what someone on television does and what someone does like every day in the office, 45, 50 minutes a session, back to back in client personal professional spaces. It's not the same thing. And we need to be really, really working hard to help people to see the difference with that voice, because we know there are centuries old of people coming into this work and thinking that they're going to do good, and because of an opportunity, something changes, and the good is now removed from the equation. It's all about how we can earn a living and
Right.
how much we can, become an expert so that people will respect the work as we do it and as we become a brand as opposed to a healer, a helper, a practitioner, a clinician. I'm first
Right.
a clinician before I'm a brand. I'm first a healer before I'm anything else. And so
Mm.
that's not questionable, and that can't be negotiated. So I want people to understand that my responsibility is always to my clients first. It's not to my brand.
Right, right. Well, by the way, we've been frozen for some reason. I don't know if I'm frozen on your end, but
You're frozen on my end, but not do I see myself frozen.
yeah. Well, you know what? It's totally fine. Don't even worry about it. People can hear us,
Okay,
and it'll give us a chance to kind of go ahead and we can conclude. But I'll because I don't know what's going on with the technical difficulties, but I'm looking on YouTube, and you're still moving on YouTube. I'm sitting
good.
still, which is actually perfect. People need to see you in action, not me. I'm just the guy who's just hosting the platform. But everybody who just tuned in, I want you to know I'm talking to Asha Tarry out of Tarry out of New York City. She's a licensed therapist. And Asha, what is your website, by the way?
So right now, because I mentioned earlier, I'm a certified life coach, but I'm also a licensed psychotherapist. I have two. If people are looking for life coaching services, they can go to lifecoachasha.com. Real simple, lifecoachasha.com. I'm actually filled to capacity right now with clients in psychotherapy, but that site is bhconsultingservices.net, and that stands for behavioral health. So bhconsultingservices.net. All that stuff is on my social media handles, which on Facebook, I'm under Asha Tarry, Asha Tarry on Twitter, Asha Tarry on LinkedIn, and then on Instagram, Asha Tarry Mental. So people can find me either way.
Okay. All right. This is awesome. Well, so everybody, make sure you write that down. That's lifecoachasha.com and bhconsultingservices.net, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And so everybody go check out Asha Tarry. And me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School in Your Black World. And if you want to check out some of my programs as well, you can go to blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. We have courses on how to invest in the stock market, how to start a Black business, how to buy a franchise. The list goes on and on and on. So we have almost 40,000 students now, and we'd love for you to be 40,001. And and also, if you're going to be in Atlanta, DC, or Los Angeles this month, in the month of April, feel free to meet me in any of those cities. You can go to Dr. Boyce, drboyceatlanta.com to get tickets there, or drboycedc.com to get tickets there, or you can go to drboycelosangeles.com. So feel free to check that out. Well, I want to say thank you, Dr. Tar. I keep calling you Dr. Tar. I'm putting it in the air.
I'm telling you, it's in my calling. You're calling it into fruition. I feel it.
Now you got to go get a doctorate now, because I keep putting it out there in the universe. So it's out there. You got to go grab it now. You're obligated, because I can't go through my life constantly messing your name up and making myself look silly. So for my benefit, I need you to go ahead and get that doctorate, so we can just
Will do.
I can call you what you're supposed to be called. I'm messing with you. You are hella qualified and hella intelligent. And also, she was in our film Resurrecting Black Wall Street, The Blueprint, and did an awesome job. And that was my first exposure. Dorian Chandler reached out to you, the director of the film, and Dorian brought you in, and I said, wow, that was a great choice. She did an amazing job. So you have my respect, Asha. It's an honor to have you in. And I'm going to have you back again later when the computer's not freezing, because I'd love to know about your journey as an entrepreneur, because everybody, I want y'all to know this is a Black woman who's doing her own thing. She's running her own empire, and she owns all of her shit. And excuse my profanity, but that's the real stuff. She's really doing it, and she's doing it well. And I congratulate you on your success. And I'd love to have you back in to talk to some of our students in the Black Business School about how you're making it happen for yourself. So congratulations on that.
Thank you so much. I'd love to come back soon.
Yes, absolutely. All right, everybody. Well, we are out of here. And once again, thank you for hanging out with us at Intellectual Chocolate. This is where we talk to smart Black people who are doing amazing and creative things. And if you happen to be one of those smart Black people who are doing amazing and creative things and want to have a long intellectual conversation, feel free to email staff@boycewatkins.com. That's staff@boycewatkins.com. But please keep your email short, to the point, link a bio, maybe your website, so that my staff members can investigate real quick and see if you're fit. Don't send like the 50-page emails, because that poor girl, that she gets 1,000 emails a day. So I don't want her to be overwhelmed. So feel free to reach out if you or someone you know would be a good fit for the show. All right. Well, take care, Asha, and you have an awesome day. And thank you once again for joining us. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
All right. Well, you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. All right. Bye-bye. Okay. And I know you can probably hear me, Asha, and I know other people can hear me.
I do.
And I haven't even stopped recording yet, because I literally have to do Control-Alt-Delete on my computer, because everything froze up while we were talking. And everybody's listening to this, by the way. So if y'all think y'all being slick or something, just know that this is that we know this is public. But it's like talking.
I could see me moving, but I saw you frozen. But I thought, oh, he's just being really attentive right now. Yeah, I know, that. Right? I know. Then when I paused, I was like, oh, okay, no, he's not moving.
the very attentive black man. Yeah. And and in fact, the crazy thing is that I still don't know how to shut all this down. But I don't care. We still gonna use this interview because the information was too good, and I know that people love it. And one thing I love about the show. And now I'm just talking out loud since everybody's listening, but
sounds good.
I love about what we do, with Intellectual Chocolate, because, in mainstream TV, you don't really get to hear from the black people we need to really hear from,
Absolutely.
I mean, why should we only hear from, a life coach / therapist like you when she's on TV screaming and hollering and getting crazy and animated? Why can't we hear from the cool, chill, smart people who actually really heal you? And you're not just sort of being utilized for somebody's TV ratings, No,
I agree. I could say this. The one great thing about the now, where we are, and the blown up age of social media is I do see more practitioners using social media to advance their work. And I think that's awesome. Probably within the last couple of years, I've seen more therapists on social media than I ever knew existed. So I found a lot of colleagues through social media. I don't know if you're familiar with Dr. Karen Glover. She's a Black psychologist, and she does panels with magazines. She does Twitter chats. She's been featured, I think, in Essence magazine a couple months ago. She covered an article about mental illness. So, and my colleague, Dr. Isaiah, I think his last name is Isaiah Pickens. He's everywhere. He does television. He's been on MSNBC. He was at One Church LA. He's quite an interesting and amazing clinician, youth mentor, public speaker. He's big. And the list goes on and on. Of course, of Terry Williams, who's a social worker as well by trade, and she has her own PR firm, an author, a Black king.
I think Terry knows everyone.
I think everybody knows Terry. That's how I feel.
For years, Terry made me feel special because she was always sending me these personal messages to say hi. And I'm like, girl, you ain't got me fooled. I do.
Right, don't soup you up.
But I felt special anyway, so it must have been working, right?
Terry's awesome. I mean, everywhere you go, someone knows Terry Williams. And we had the great pleasure of being on a panel together for Health First a couple of years ago at the Alhambra Ballroom in Harlem. So, you see more people who know how important this work is, doing whatever is necessary to get the message out there. And what I said earlier in jest is, I've respected a lot of the work that Iyanla has done over the years. I've been following someone since I was 16 years old. My first book, Acts of Faith, was given to me by a minister in training who I still see now on Facebook. And to this day, I still read. The book is almost coming apart. That's how much I've utilized her affirmations book. I have, in the meantime, I've been watching her since before Oprah had an own network. So I know of her work. I almost actually studied at her institute, and I was a big fan. And I say was as in past tense because as I've seen the show develop and her get more acclaim for the work that she's doing on television, it's changed the dynamic in which she's worked. And I just want people to know that it's okay for us to disagree, even as people in a similar industry. I'm in the self-help industry, being a certified coach, as she's also a certified coach. But before I was a certified coach, I was a licensed therapist. And I know how important being part of the mental medical health field, being ethical is really a big value in everything that I do, from what I decide, how I work with a client, to the frequency of sessions I have with a client, to whether I need to be in the room with the client or they can be remote with me. I mean, everything has a reasoning and rationale behind it. And I'm always thinking what's best for the client. Now, I'm starting to take myself, of course, into account as my work grows, but it's always the first thought, is this going to impact the client, and in which way? Is it going to help them, hurt them? Is it going to stretch the work that we can do? Are they at a standstill with me? What do I need to do in terms of upping my game and my expertise? It doesn't stop because I have a license. My work continues, my training continues, and my obligation is to make sure I'm thinking of that first. So although we can be on Twitter and Facebook Live and we can run groups, I have to still be conscious voice, even when I'm not working one-on-one or in one-to-group with people. What I post, how I post, what I don't post, I'm very intentional about it. I'm very careful and cautious to be mindful of my language, not including curse words when I post anything, making sure that when I post photographs, they're not exploitive. They don't include clients unless clients have signed consent forms to get release photos of themselves if it's a group photo. All of these different things that go in the back of my mind constantly as I'm doing anything with clients or potential clients, even down to this. I get messages all the time on Facebook Messenger, Twitter DMs, now Instagram DMs, of people asking me what I do, how I do it, if they could become a client of mine. And then they'll follow me on social media and they'll post comments on my photos at times and they'll like pictures. And I've even had people who wanted to be clients of mine invite me out to coffee and tea. I can't do that. Once I've made the establishment with you, or the contract, verbal or nonverbal, that we're going to work together as clinician and client, any type of friendship or relationship that we could have doesn't exist, because we're not friends. And I can't cross that line of going from clinician to friend or friend to clinician to you. That's not how this works. I'd rather refer you to a colleague than to take you on as a client if we've had a friendly type of engagement. And to some degree, that can walk a fine line depending on where people meet me. But in a lot of cases, when people do meet me and they know what I do already because they've seen me online, or they see me on a show, or they've heard me on the radio, or they find out through conversation what I do, if they realize that I'm a therapist and they're looking for a therapist, then the dynamic changes for me automatically. Maybe not for them, but I'm already thinking work relationship. I'm not thinking personal. I'm not thinking I'm giving you my personal cell phone number. We're going to chit chat and have brunch on Saturday. I'm thinking, here's my card. Call me when you're ready.
Well, you've educated me a lot, and I don't know how many people can still hear the conversation, but I think that we're actually to the point where I'm just going to have to hit just close the program remotely, because this dang thing is acting so crazy. But thanks a lot, for Asha, for kind of sort of educating us on a lot of this. There's someone I know very well who's a professor of social work and also a licensed therapist, and when she heard that you were going to talk about this, she was like, "That's right. You tell her that she is absolutely correct. That Iyanla Vanzant is not a licensed therapist, and they need to stop making people think that she is." But to Oprah and Iyanla's credit, they're not saying that she.
They're not the ones doing it. The
right.
public is doing that. The public is pointing that.
But at the same time, though, sometimes you may try harder than other times to let people know what they need to know, right? So I think there is that question of whether or not they're actually working hard enough to make sure people know this information, or even if they have an obligation to do that, right? Like I might, if I know that you think it's almost like when Obama ran for president, and a lot of people said, well, Obama never told you that he was going to do the XYZ for Black people. It's like, I wouldn't be surprised though, at the same time, he knew that people were expecting certain things and just simply did not correct them.
Just go along with it. Yeah.
Right,
so we're implying that to not say something is what? Is equally as bad as saying something. To remove the ideas from people's mind and to not even go forth and be explicit with that knowledge is doing what?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it's as bad per se, or even almost as bad, but it's still not. It doesn't make you completely out of the zone of responsibility when it comes to sort of, helping the people that you're supposed to help, and guiding Black people in the right.
Right.
Like if I put out a bunch of, if I let people believe things about me, and I know it's to my benefit, then the issue is that if I really care about those people, I should probably put the onus on myself to go ahead and give them an accurate portrayal so that they don't go around sort of investing in this idea that is false, that, ultimately, where ultimately the investment in this false idea ends up hurting them. Because a lot of people don't get real therapy. They get their therapy from Fix My Life. And, and that
I get the therapy.
You know what I mean?
Get therapy from their barber or their hairdresser or their if it works on the person seeking the help or the person giving it. I get what you're saying. I'm going to always go with it's on the responsibility of the person giving the help. If I let you continue to call me Dr. Terry, knowing I'm not a doctor, knowing I have no credentials that proves me to be a PhD or an MD, that onus is on me. That's my fault, not yours. So again, people come to us because there is a hierarchical difference between who I am in my position and who you are in coming to me seeking help. If I do nothing to correct the error of what you believe me to be, that is on me. Now, there are lots of things that people assume about me when they come in the door. There's things they assume about me before they even get to me, ethnically, education-wise, age. I mean, it's all like a list of things. Do I go through each and every one of those things? No, because to some degree, to go to what you're saying, it might be important to that client that I'm that thing or that entity for them, okay? It might be reparative in some ways. But when it comes down to concrete things and how we market ourselves, that's a different entity. That's a whole different monster. And we have to be really responsible with that, because now we're training up not only an upcoming generation that's going to follow us, but the existing people who don't know better. And that is our responsibility. That's our obligation to them, to right the wrong, to correct the error, and to move forth with integrity.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank you very much, Asha. It was wonderful speaking to you. I appreciate your time. And everybody if you can still hear us, I guess it became more of a radio show because for some reason this program froze up. Just so you know, it's never done this on any interview before. So I think it's the man doesn't want us to inform the people. So
but we're going to get it out there anyway, because that's what we do.
That's right. So once again, Asha's websites are lifecoachasha.com. That's lifecoachasha.com, and bhconsultingservices.net. That's bhconsultingservices.net. Me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from the Black Business School. You can find out more about the programs I teach by going to blackfinancialliteracy.com. That's blackfinancialliteracy.com. Also, if you want to see me in Atlanta, DC, or Los Angeles this month, you can go to drboyceatlanta.com, drboycedc.com, or drboycelosangeles.com. So take care, and goodbye, Asha. And I'm going to hit a button. I think you might disappear after I hit this button, so I'll say goodbye to you as well. All right, take care, everybody. Bye-bye.